Hello everyone, this is Forever Scrub. That's my handle on Capcom Fighters Network. I have set up the Scrubadub Dojo where we try to clean up our game, and I'm here with my little beginner guide to Ryu. So I'm going to be going over his basic game plan, the kind of common mistakes I see with him, and some advice on how to get out of the low grades, so like iron, bronze, silver, that sort of thing. Things you've got to concentrate there, and then I'll try to have a separate guide for intermediate, which I think of as like gold and platinum, and then when you're advanced you're in diamond, and then when you're at master rank you're sort of elite. I am, as you can guess from my name, Forever Scrub, not very good at Street Fighter. So I played about 800 hours of Street Fighter 5, and I sort of got 3 characters to gold, but I just really felt bad at it. Like I felt like it took me ages to get anywhere. I think my reaction times are still very slow. I'm very bad with my cognitive stack. I tend to kind of make the same mistakes over again, and yeah, I just don't learn very fast. And I think that actually makes me quite good for creating beginner videos. So that's what I'm doing here. But I have gotten this Ryu to Platinum 2, and I'm still winning pretty consistently, I think. So I think I might make it hopefully all the way to Diamond before Rashid comes out, and then I do intend to main Rashid for quite a long time. So hopefully I am an appropriate person for this sort of guide. And because I sucked so hard and for so long, I think when I did make breakthroughs, I sort of had quite strong realizations about what had been holding me back, and hopefully I can pass on some of that wisdom to you guys. Let's talk about Ryu for a bit. So Ryu is a Shoto character, which means that he uses this standard Shotokan style that Ryu, Ken, Akuma, etc. have, and he also has all the kind of normal Shoto stuff, like a pretty long-reaching, pretty fast crouch medium, obviously the fireball, dragon punch stuff, the Tatsu, which all the Shotos have. Luke is also basically a Shoto character, and there's a lot of characters who are kind of templated off of Shoto and then become more advanced. Why play Ryu? So a couple of things. If you like throwing fireballs and doing uppercuts, then Ryu is obviously gas. But generally speaking, I think Luke is like just better than Ryu in general. So Luke does like more damage. He has better wake up pressure. Like he can usually threaten a throw or a strike. Whereas often, because Ryu's drive rush is just a bit slow and a bit short, he doesn't get quite close enough to throw. He's like standing right here and he'll miss, and so your opponent just needs to block. Luke has better corner carry than Ryu. Luke's just generally better. So I'd probably recommend playing with Luke. The only reason why Ryu is better for beginners is that Ryu's combos are just easier to do than Luke's. You don't need that perfect timing on the charge. You don't need to worry about inputting a dash motion and then hitting a button like you do with Luke. All of Ryu's stuff is really super straightforward, and Ryu is also like a little bit more honest than Luke. Like because Luke is so powerful, you can often just sort of do neutral skip, and I see this even in Platinum. There's Lukes who just stand back and sandblast and then walk backwards and then run at you and do the overhead flip kick, and that's like their whole game. So they're just not really playing core Street Fighter, as it were. They're not playing a style that will get them ahead, but they've made it all the way to Platinum, whereas you won't be able to do that with Ryu. So if your intention is to get good at the fundamentals of Street Fighter 6 and become a kind of well-rounded Street Fighter player, then Ryu's really good for that. I think he forces you to play good fundamentals, and he is pretty good at fundamentals. Alright, the basic idea with Ryu is that you will be throwing fireballs and you will be doing dragon punches. So you really have to start by working on those 2 techniques. If you can't consistently throw fireballs and you accidentally get dragon punches instead, that's going to be really bad for you. So make sure that you can very consistently throw this bad boy out, that you can throw the EXs out when you want, do engine charges consistently, and most importantly, make sure that you are good on the dragon punch, and we'll be talking about that a lot throughout the video. You have to be good at dragon punches. And then the other thing that Ryu does is his neutral game is actually like not bad, I guess. Like this has got quite a lot of reach, which is nice. This has got quite a lot of reach, and it's like slow, but you can also set up really nice spacing traps with it. His jab game is fine. This is like not a bad light kick. So his neutral game's actually okay, and he can get pretty decent cash outs. And what Ryu usually does is like chips away at the opponent with some fireballs and some dragon punches, and then eventually you get one good hit off like a drive impact or something, and then you just do a massive cash out because his combos hit really quite hard, especially once he's got level 3, and you'll just be doing stuff like this. Oops. Forever Scrub. Boom. And then you'll just hit them for like 5,000 damage. Now obviously that was a big drive rush combo. It's not the sort of thing that you're going to be doing in beginners, but you will be doing it in the intermediate grades, and that's a part of Ryu's game plan. So I'll just kind of foreshadow that. He's about chipping away, doing honest stuff, a lot of kick mediums, and then just getting an occasional big cash out. Once your opponent's frustrated by all your fireballs and all your dragon punches and starts to do less safe, sketchy stuff where you can get a big punish. All right, so talking about Ryu's game plan in a bit more detail, you must throw fireballs, right? Even when that sort of stuff happens. So every character in this game has a pretty strong answer to fireballs, which is just to drive impact straight through it. If you get intimidated playing Ryu and let people drive impact through your fireballs, then you're going to lose, right? This is a huge part of Ryu's game. If you're not throwing fireballs, then you're not playing Ryu. You're playing some other character who's very limited and sucks, right? So you have to throw fireballs. That's your game. As soon as you stop throwing fireballs, other people can just play their game. Zangief can just walk up to you. Other characters can use spin knuckles and all this kind of stuff. Or so I should say, Honda can just start headbutting you. Blanca can just start barreling at you. You've got to throw fireballs, keep people honest, and dictate the space, right? And then, of course, when you throw fireballs, people are going to jump. So what are you going to do? You're going to dragon punch them. And occasionally, you won't be able to dragon punch them. You'll put out the fireball or whatever, and someone will get a jump in. And you can't be frustrated by that. You've just got to take a chill pill when someone jumps in and you'll be like, yep, cool, good jump in. All right, I'm just going to keep going and I'm going to revert to my game plan when I can of throwing fireballs and doing uppercuts, right? People will keep jumping at you as Ryu, right? You can be like, don't jump, stop jumping. But eventually people will just keep jumping because if they stay on the ground, you win because you're just throwing fireballs at them on the ground. Right, so if someone stops jumping, you've got to be really happy about that because now you can really dominate them with the fireballs, right? But mostly it's going to be about them jumping and you anti-airing them and being like, yes, they jumped, so good. Now I get to punch them in the mouth for 1200 damage. All right, so you've got to throw fireballs, you've got to have an anti-air game. If you can't do dragon punches, you're going to really struggle to win games with Ryu. That's part of why he's such a good character to learn the game, because he forces you to not use this. This button sucks. The reason why it sucks is because it doesn't stop cross-ups, this nonsense here, right? If someone hits you behind your head, then they're going to jump straight over this and you're going to take a massive combo in the back of the head. Whereas usually when people cross you up, if you do a light dragon punch, it actually stuffs it out straight out of the sky and they fall right next to you, so you can get a nice little wake up combo. So you have to learn to dragon punch, not use buttons for your anti-airs, and that forces you to become a better player. All right, so I think that's really good. Okay, so yeah, generally the weaker Ryu players I see, so we're talking now about common mistakes, stop throwing fireballs, they get intimidated too quickly, and they have a shit anti-air game. So they rely too much on this, and opponents can just jump in on them really easily, right? So you have to be able to do dragon punches consistently, and you have to be able to throw fireballs consistently. One thing you have to know about the dragon punch is that it is anti-air invincible. So let's do a light dragon punch. That's a 5-frame button, which means that it took 5 frames to become active, same as the throw. So the throw takes 5 frames to come out, jabs take 4 frames. Now that's a really fast button. So this light dragon punch is also a very fast button. Once those 5 frames are out, it becomes fully airstrike invincible. So any attack that's coming from the air to try to hit my dragon punch, it's just going to be invincible to it. It doesn't matter if Cammy's foot is fully inside my head when the dragon punch comes out. I will just be invincible to that foot and she'll get punched in the mouth by my dragon punch. All right, so it's really important that you trust those frames. Like sometimes you throw a fireball, you see someone jump over it, and you're just like, oh shit, I got to block, but you don't actually have to block. You have to put the dragon punch out. Believe in the anti-air frames. Trust those anti-air frames all the time. They are your best friend. You have to dragon punch. It's actually going to be better than blocking, not just because obviously you don't take damage in either way, but you also punch them in the mouth. And it's demoralizing for your opponent. Like, they think they've got the jump in, but actually you're just invincible your way through their jump in. So trust that. Try to avoid using this button, although sometimes you will inevitably use it from about this range, but mostly you're doing uppercuts. All right, one thing I'll say then next is that the range you want to be playing with Ryu is actually probably about here. And if you watch the pro players like MDZ, Jimmy, and Makua, and the Japanese guys, they're all playing about here, right? Beginners always think you want to play Ryu here. They're like, yeah, I've got a fireball. I'm just going to keep throwing my fireballs. But actually from this range, it's so easy for your opponent to jump the fireball, and then you'll have to just like, then you'll like whiff, you'll go like, oops, I meant to throw a fireball, but my fireball is still on the screen, and you can't have two fireballs on the screen, so then you'll whiff, that'll let them jump in further, close the distance with you, things will be bad. And then what usually happens is players are all the way back here, throwing fireballs, and their opponent starts coming at them, so what do? They're like, oh, run away, run away. And eventually they corner themselves, right? I see this all the time. At the start of matches, you can just like walk towards people, even in like high gold, even low platinum. Just walk towards people and they'll just walk away. They don't want to play neutral. They don't want to be in this distance from their opponent. They're scared. They just want to be back here throwing fireballs. Weirdly, Kami players, Kami has like some of the absolute best neutral in the game. It's shit hot. Those players will still just like walk backwards with Kami because what they want to do is spin knuckle and hooligan combination and jump in and all that sort of neutral skip nonsense, right? You don't want to do that. You want to be in here playing good, honest, fundamental Street Fighter. And at this range, you want to throw light fireballs, right? Not heavy fireballs. The reason why is that light fireball recovers much faster, right? So you can get the Dragon Punch out if they jump over it much more easily than if you use the heavy fireball, okay? So generally you want to be using light fireball. Heavy fireball, occasionally you throw it out. Oops, see, input errors. That's why I am forever a scrub. So sometimes you want to throw out the heavy fireball because it's just so fast. So it's very hard to react to and it's a bit demoralizing. But like I'd say 3, 4 out of 5 fireballs, you just want to be using the light and using the Shoryuken. When you're back here, you want to use the heavy fireball a little bit more, but mostly you just want to be varying the pace so that your opponent has a harder time predicting that kind of Donkey Kong problem that you're sending them. Sometimes you want to use the EX, but the EX is really for the neutral. Like you're trying to get your opponent to sort of walk forward or commit to a button, and then you just EX them and they fall down. And then you get the nice knockdown, and you can get a Denjin charge off, or you can try to close the distance if they're closer to the corner. That's mostly what EX is for, and for fireball battles. Okay, so you want to play at this distance. Now, the next thing that I see people do is focus too much on their own game and not enough on what their opponent is doing. So the first layer of that is that Street Fighter 6 has given pretty much every character some ridiculously straightforward way to beat fireballs. So the obvious one is that from this range, you can just get driving impacted, right? So if you're just like constantly throwing fireballs without really thinking about it, eventually your opponent's just going to drive impact through it and you're going to get smashed. So you can't be predictable. You want to throw out the fireball occasionally. You want to play other neutral, just like pause, vary your timing, vary your patterns. Occasionally throw out a Hoshogeki instead, because this is like recovers even faster than the light fireball, and so you can get an uppercut in there really easily. All right, so you're playing at this distance. You're trying to be unpredictable, and then when your opponent does DI you, but you haven't thrown a fireball, then you DI them back, and that's when you get one of those big cash outs that I was talking about. The thing you need to learn is all the different gimmicks that characters have beyond drive impact in order to beat you. So a lot of them you can beat simply by being unpredictable. So like Chun-Li's Hazansho is a really annoying anti-fireball move, but it's also quite slow and quite punishable. So if you can bait her into doing it and then just block and beat it with this combo, that's how you punish Hazanshu, just light kick Tatsu. Really effective, and then you dealt some damage, 1,000 damage, and you got Loki, so you're standing on top of her when you finish that Tatsu combo. That's really good. Kami obviously has spin knuckle, so just go into training mode. Go to recording settings. I've got a recording here that's just Kami doing spin knuckle and then doing drive impact straight afterwards. Let's have a look. Spin knuckle, drive impact, right? And the reason why I've got her doing that is so that when I drive impact her, if I'm too slow, then she will drive impact my drive impact. And that's what we want to punish. And we just want to get used to punishing Cammy's spin knuckle, right? So you see it on reaction, you get drive impact, and then you can punish it for that, all right? So you want to practice that sort of thing. Same with Marissa's Superman punch, which is even harder to drive impact. And there's a bunch of other gimmicks of that sort. So learn the ways that your opponents try to simplistically beat your fireball game. So they're not trying to do it honestly. They're not doing neutral jumps to force you to vary your timing. They're not kind of taking risks and jumping over fireballs. They're just trying to do brain dead stuff, right? Force them to play honestly with your fireball game. Have a good, honest fireball trap where you're trapping people into jumping into your uppercut, and then you'll have a really good time with Ryu. All right, what have I got next? Okay. Two bad habits that I see from a lot of Ryu players is an over-reliance on this. So generally an over-reliance on crouch medium kick is bad because it's quite a slow button on recovery. So it comes out quickly, it's got nice range, you can use it for a lot of combo starters like that, which I dropped because I'm a scrub. It's a really good button, but if you abuse it, then people will just start to see it and drive impact you, or they will punish your crouch medium kick. So generally speaking, avoid that, and also avoid following up with a fireball, because it's just not a lot. Like you do like 1,000 damage, like that's okay, I guess, but it's like not a lot. There's something like this gives you 1,500 damage, and you've got better Oki, so you go into the throw. Alright, so try not to use that too much, and also try not to become reliant on cross-cuts to get the party started, right? Because that's just going to cost you later in the game. It's going to mean you're jumping a lot. There's going to be heaps of characters like Cammy who'll just walk under your jump in and throw you. This is generally better anyway, because it's just got like a tighter hitbox, so you're more likely to catch the person walking under you. And then the jab follow-up is also like much more reliable if people hit drive impact in the air. So if you come down and they drive impact in response, then you get one jab out, and then you can do your reply drive impact. So try to avoid becoming super reliant on the cross up. I just see that in a lot of beginner players. All they do is want to cross you up all day. If someone's doing that to you, you just want to get used to their pattern and then jump back in heavy and medium kick, or jump back medium punch, or a light punch. Ryu's got an instant air overhead, I just discovered that. Okay, cool. Yeah, so generally you just want to be jumping back and doing medium kick to stop that kind of nonsense. And then you've got a nice distance again, you can go back to fireball dragon punch game plan. Alright, so don't walk yourself into a corner, don't get intimidated, and stop throwing fireballs. Make sure you have your dragon punches down. Alright, the next most important thing to talk about is letting people hang themselves. Okay, so I already talked about this a bit when I said learn people's anti-fireball tools and punish them. So when the low grades is mostly about punishing people, especially with Ryu. So Ryu has this very brain dead basic gameplay where he's just like throwing fireballs, using kick medium to control the space, using light kick to control the space. And then when your opponent tries to jump, which they do so much in the low grades, you just uppercut them, right? And if your opponent's doing, where are we? Dummy settings. So if your opponent's recovering in place all the time, so when you fall down, if you press 2 or especially 3 buttons, but I think you only have to press 2, as you're falling, then you'll do a back roll, right? Recover backwards. But in the low grades, no one really does that. They just do the default recover in place. And if you recover in place against Ryu, then he's almost always got Oki there, right? So after I knocked her down, when I dashed up, I was close enough to throw her and also close enough to do this. Alright, that's the first combo you should learn with Ryu. You should learn punch medium, low punch medium, tatsu. Right? And that's going to be your wake up combo. So if people are waking up with jabs or waking up with throws, then your fist will be inside their body when they recover, and they'll just get hit. Their button won't come out. So you'll just be able to keep applying pressure like that. Right, so that's your first combo. And then you'll notice that a lot of players in the low grades don't wake up with jabs and throws. They certainly don't wake up blocking. They mostly wake up with EX dragon punches and drive impacts. So the two combos that we need to learn next are how to defend ourselves against that nonsense. So in Street Fighter 5, Oki pressure, which is this wake up stuff, so when they're coming off the ground, making sure you hit them with a meaty button, was such a huge part of the game, like even bigger than it is in Street Fighter 6. And so a lot of the videos that you see from people is all about how to apply that wake up pressure. But I actually think that in Street Fighter 6, especially in the low grades, it's much more important that you learn to shimmy. So shimmying is considered an advanced skill, but I think it actually needs to be part of the beginner repertoire. I think this is one of the biggest learnings for me in Street Fighter 5, catapulted me like a whole grade when I started shimmying properly. So I think you should shimmy 50% of the time. What is a shimmy? It basically means that after you knock someone down, you go backwards and then forwards, right? And that means that if they do a wake up DI like that, you can throw them, because by then you'll be walking out, walking in and throwing them again. Oftentimes what you do is walk out and punch heavy, but you don't even need to worry about that in the low grades. It's just walk out, if they do nothing, walk back in and throw them, right? If they wake up and drive impact, then you get a nice taste. Okay? Alright, so we've got our one wake up combo, Tatsu, and the reason why we use Tatsu instead of Dragon Punch is because we get that Oki pressure if they just stand up on the spot. Then our next combo is going to be, or the next thing we learn is the shimmy, so walking backwards on wake up and throwing them. So we want to have this combo, and we want to throw, right? And we're going to do that about 1/3 of the time each, and then 1/3 of the time we're going to walk back and then walk forward and throw. And that way, if she does an EX uppercut like that, then we'll just be able to punish it. If you find that your opponent just really loves that EX uppercut, then you can make this 50% of the time, right? You can't do it all the time, because then they'll just have one thing and they'll adapt to it. So let's say we go to reversal settings, and we go to wake up reversal, and we're just going to put OD cannon spike on. So now every time she wakes up, she's going to do an OD cannon spike, right? We need to be able to punish this stuff, because they're super punishable. We can do a lot of damage. Boom! 3,000 damage. 3,000 damage. And now most characters have 1,000 health, so if you hit them like twice like that, they're going to be pretty close to dead. That combo from Ryu goes into his supers really quite nicely as well. Right, and then you can go into level 2 from there. Let's try it. Oh, right. Or you can go into level 3 really easily. Boom. Level 3. Right, so you get these nice big cash outs when people do those buttons. Kami's EX uppercut is quite fast, so it recovers really quickly, but a lot of the other characters, you can actually drive impact them on the way down, and the reason why that's slightly better is because drive impact destroys 1.5 bars of your opponent's drive gauge. So if they do an EX uppercut that costs 2 bars, then you drive impact them. So they've lost 3.5 bars and they're going to take like 3,000 damage. That's really quite painful. So Ryu and Ken's uppercuts, for example, and Yuri's, you can just smack them like that with the drive impact. But if that's too much for you to think about, then just learn this kick heavy. The kick heavy punish is so good, right? And another reason why it's so good is because it doesn't just punish uppercuts, it punishes all the supers. So most supers have really long recovery. So after they hit you and you block, you then have like 25, 30 frames to do something. This is a very slow button, but it's 12 frames, which is quite short relative to those 30 frames of recovery that supers have. And it's got really nice range. So you don't need to worry about like dashing in or like figuring out whether you're close enough to do your punishes. You just kick them in the face. That's it, right? You've got mad range. Look at that, mad range, right? And it doesn't hit crouching. So if your opponent's crouched, where are we? Standing crouch, right? If Kami's crouched, I'm just going to whiff over her head. But when people are recovering from attacks, they always counter standing. So you can just punch them in the face, right? So let's put reversal settings instead of backdash. I'm going to have her do a super art. Alright, so now when she wakes up, she's going to do a super art. and I'm just mashing kick heavy, boom. And you'll see after I do the kick heavy, because it's a punish counter, she'll crumple. And because of that crumple, I have so much time to think about what I want to do. When you're a beginner, you have all these things on your mind. I've got to watch out for the anti-air, I've got to watch out for this, what am I doing? That's called your cognitive stack, all the things that you're thinking about. And so if you have like 8 different ways that you need to punish different sorts of moves, which is kind of how Ken functions a lot of the time, then you've just got too much to think about. Whereas with Ryu, there's really only like 2 punishes that Ryu has. He's got he's got that one, that's one of his ways of punishing. He's got that one, that's one of his ways of punishing. And he's got this one. Right, and that's all you really need to learn, those 3. There's one more, which is the drive impact punish. All right, so learn that one next. So we've got this, the shimmy, and then we're going to punish EX uppercuts with kick heavy, punch heavy, uppercut. And that's going to do 3,000 damage. If you're in the mid screen, instead of doing the uppercut at the end, you might want to just do tatsu, because it's going to leave you on top of them and it's got more corner carry. So when you tatsu people, they travel quite a lot around the screen. And we want to push people into the corner. Yeah, see there, I tried to throw her and so she got the big super off me. And I don't want that. All right, what's the next thing we want to learn? All right, so the next thing we want to learn is our wake up light sequence, which you do in the mid screen a lot too. So we're going to start here in the corner. And the next one you want to learn is crouch light kick. Crouch light kick, and then light jab, light jab. That combo there, right? Uppercut. Boom. Okay, I better just turn off that, because otherwise she's going to do that. Alright, so we're going to put her to wake up with a crouch light. Right, and I might mistime this a lot because I'm a scrub. Sure you can. Okay, now you see how it says counter hit there on the left hand side? Let's see again. That's because she tried to jab when she woke up, but my toes were in her body when she became active. So they hit her before her button could start, and so I got the counter hit. And that means that we have nice wake up pressure. You saw it there as well, because I've got the dummy to occasionally block and then try to jab me, because often what you're going to do is this and then throw your opponent. Right? That's called a tick throw. So if your opponent's scared of that, they might jab after they block, and then these next 2 jabs are going to hit them in the mouth. All right, so you want to learn this one because it sets up your tick throw game, which is quite a nice complement. So eventually you have like all these different options that you do to just bamboozle your opponent. So sometimes you just raw throw them, sometimes you do this one, sometimes you do the jab combo, sometimes you do 2 lights and then you throw them. Sometimes you shimmy and punch them in the mouth. Sometimes you jump. The reason why I don't really like the jump option is because a lot of uppercuts will still hit you out of it, but it stops a lot of supers and that sort of thing. Right, so we want to vary those up. The reason why we learned this one next is because of its relationship with wake up drive impact. Alright, so oftentimes in the low grades, people are hanging themselves. They're doing dumb shit, scrubby shit, and one of those things is to wake up drive impact. So if that's what Cammy does, we get some punish. Alright, now we're going to do it again. Oh, I got hit because I'm a scrub. So because these buttons are so quick and the jabs are drive impact cancelable, it means that I can easily see her when she's doing that drive impact. All right, so then you're just like autopiloting this 3-hit combo, and after you got your first 2 hits out, each time you hit her, there's a little bit of block stun when the armor interaction occurs, and that just gives your brain more time to realize that she's doing drive impact, and so at that point you'll be able to do the drive impact. So that's the second or the next combo we learned. So what have we got? We got this one, punch medium, crouch punch medium, tatsu, and then we had, what did we have? Then we had the shimmy, then we had kick heavy, punch heavy, DP or tatsu, or donkey kick if you want to go into your level 3 super. And then we had this light jab combo, and now the next one, the last one that we have to learn is how to get a big cash out when we punish a drive impact. So, alright, and then just drive impact. And this is probably the one I recommend. Forward. Okay, we'll just do it in the neutral. So it's solar plexus punch, crouch medium punch. And then if you want, you can just go straight into Tatsu from there. Or you can add a bit of a flourish to it. So the nice thing about crouch medium punch is that it goes straight into drive rush heavy kick. And heavy kick is your most damaging button as Ryu. So it does 900. How much does this do? 800. It does a lot of drive gauge damage as well, which is quite nice, but you rarely use it for that. So it does a lot of damage, and on hit, it's 9 frames. So if you drive impact into it, then it becomes 12 frames or 13 frames, and that means you can follow it up with a heavy punch, so it does really good damage. So often when you're drive impacting, you'll go into a drive rush combo like that, but even if you don't, you can go into like supers and stuff. Why am I so score? So you can go into other things. Alright. We can go into EX. Messed up that combo up because I'm a scrub. Yeah, so your level 2 super comes from this button. EX Hashogeki goes into level 2 super, but I usually wouldn't recommend that. There's a more advanced, complicated combo that you want to use for Hashogeki so that you get the charged up version and then you can DP them in the corner. And otherwise you just don't really want to use supers with Ryu to cash out. You just want to finish with big dragon punches and then wait to do level 3, because level 3 does most of the damage. Alright, so I think we've basically covered like what Ryu's about. So let's go over the whole sort of game plan. So you're mostly just hanging out in the neutral at this kind of range, throwing fireballs. So your opponent's buttons don't quite reach you. If Cammy tries to stick out her big, long, heavy kick button, then she'll whiff it here and you'll just sweep it, right? And that's what it's really all about with Ryu, is that when people stick out buttons, you sweep it, right? The sweep comes out quite fast at 9 frames. It knocks down right in front of your face, so then you can get this combo going or this combo going on wake up, or you can throw, or you can shimmy. But you're just throwing fireballs, and then when they jump at you, you're doing the big sure you can, right? 6 frames for the medium, which is the one that you mostly use. If you're quite far away, like here, then you want to use the heavy, because sometimes people neutral jump will empty jump at you. So they'll jump without pressing a button. Often what you hit with your dragon punch is their outstretched limb, but if that limb's not there, then the medium dragon punch will whiff and you'll take a huge punish, right? So oftentimes you want to be doing the heavy dragon punch when they're jumping at you from further away, and it's only 7 frames on startup, so it's really quite good for that sort of thing. Often you want the light dragon punch because it's quick, especially if they're jumping from close to you and you're worried about getting crossed up. Right, so throwing fireballs, doing uppercuts, and then occasionally you'll just throw in one of these instead, or you'll do crouch medium, probably not with a drive rush, just crouch medium Hadouken. You'd use this a lot as a spacing tool, so when they get inside your fireball range and you're worried about shenanigans, just push them out again with this one. But don't overuse this because people will drive impact you. And then every now and then you're going to get knockdowns, right? So you're going to get the dragon punch knockdown, and they're going to be lying on the ground and you'll be on top of them, and then you can get your pressure started with this combo or this combo and light Tatsu. So I always show dragon punch in the corner, but what you actually do a lot is light Tatsu. It's not over. Oh, that was too far. Light Tatsu, and then you'll be on top of them and able to do more wake up pressure. And then you just want to punish people for doing dumb shit. So when you do have the knockdown, just threaten them and then walk backwards and let them do their stupid uppercuts. Punish with kick heavy, punch heavy, uppercuts. When they do drive impacts, counter their drive impact. Don't really bother doing drive impacts of your own. It's not that important unless your opponent's like throwing a lot of fireballs and you want to punish them for something like that. Ryu is mostly dictating the basic terms of engagement with this fireball uppercut game. That's what you're all about. Force your opponents to do risky stuff when they get frustrated by that game and punish them for it. All right, the last thing I will say is that it takes a very, very long time to learn fighting games, especially Street Fighter. This iteration of the game is so deep. There's so much stuff going on. Your cognitive stack is going to be totally overwhelmed. You can't learn everything at once. Just set one intention for each one of your sessions. Always start in training mode. What I'd usually recommend is that you set the dummy to block at random. So obviously you need to like get your combos down first, and for that you want block after first hit. But once you've got your basic combos down, and there's not many of them, set the dummy to random, then go to reversal settings, have all these different wake up reversals. So sometimes they're going to drive impact, sometimes they're going to EX uppercut, and then sometimes they're going to do supers, sometimes they're just going to block, sometimes they're going to jab, and then also do all the block reversals. So sometimes after they block, they're going to do nothing, sometimes they're going to keep blocking, sometimes they're going to jump, sometimes they're going to punch, sometimes they're going to drive impact. And then from here, just start with a few jump-ins, right? And that's going to let you practice your bread and butter combos like that. So you can practice these things, get used to... Maybe I should... So that's where you will be reminding yourself that you should shimmy and wake up. Alright, and shimmy and wake up. I got paid off straight away. Shimmy and oh, because I see what's wrong. Yeah. Oh no, I have everything on. Why is she counter spiking so much? I don't know. Yeah, alright, there's the jab, right? So you just practice that stuff and that'll just get you in the zone. And then you want to set your one intention for that session. So maybe your one intention for that session is just going to be getting the uppercuts going. And I think when you're a beginner, it's really worth spending some time every session at the beginning of your session to just go to these simple training sessions and do the anti-air practice. Because if you can't Dragon Punch consistently, you won't be able to get very far with Ryu. So make sure you can do that. But maybe your intention is something like, I want to use this wake up combo, or I want to make sure that when I get random jabs, like we trade in the air or something, and then we're coming down from the air and we've just like mashing out jabs, that when I get this, I want to convert into Dragon Punch. Like I don't just want to, and then just like be flurrying out here. I want to make sure that I get my Dragon Punch off. If that's your intention, then practice that in the training mode. And keep doing it. And generally go out of training mode into the matchmaking settings rather than through the battle hub, because you want to practice stuff between matches. And at the end of some matches, I usually do 3 at a time, and then I'm kind of a bit tired. I quit matchmaking. I practice a bit in here until I'm feeling a bit refreshed, and then I go back into matchmaking. So just do one thing each session and try to integrate it into your session, and don't get upset with yourself if you stuff up other things, as long as you do that thing occasionally, because slowly it will become part of your game plan. All right, I think that concludes everything that I wanted to say. Hope this was useful. Once again, I am Forever Scrub, and come join the Scrubadub Dojo where we try to clean up our game. See you next time for the intermediate video.